Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about playing the long game. And this sucks. I mean, it really does. Everything around us is go, go, go. Everything around us is 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Everything is you already should have had it. Or we want it so bad that we want it quickly because we wish we had done it earlier. And the fact of the matter is the long game is a byproduct of the short game. Fitness, health, this is a lifetime gig. This isn't something that we do once and then it's done. It doesn't work that way. When we get to a certain point, we either have to maintain it or set a new goal. And those goals change over time. They don't have to be the same thing. So for example, one goal in the beginning might be, I want to lose 30 pounds. That's great. What happens when you lose 30 pounds? Do we continue to do the same things? Do we want to build muscle? Do we want to build range of motion? Do we want to build restfulness, peacefulness? Do we want to build mobility? Do we want to start training for something? In the long game, I remember hearing this story about a buddy of mine who had crossed the Sahara. Okay, now, if you know about the Sahara, it's hot and it's big. Okay, so you can get lost pretty easily. But here's what's cool. When you look way off in the distance, to the horizon of the distance, you can see an oil barrel, okay, tiny little oil barrel. And that's how you know which direction to go. It's on the horizon. But here's what's even cooler than that. You can't see the next oil barrel until you get to that oil barrel. You see what's happening here. When we have a long goal, a challenging goal, something that we might not even see, we don't even know what it is yet. See, new goals will present themselves as we get better, as we become more of who we are, who we're destined to be, and where we're putting our energy in terms of our goals. And destiny, this is not some spiritual thing. This is really, I believe that we should be healthy, right? I do believe that we should move well. I do believe that we should be able to do the things we want to do when we want to do them, the way we want to do them. And be prepared for that because we did the necessary actions to get there. Not because we sat on a couch and now we want to go do something and we all of a sudden find we can't do it and we're surprised. No, it doesn't work that way. We got to get up and we got to find that first oil barrel. So when we're looking at the long game, we're going to see more oil barrels as we go. Now, you might have a clear idea of what crossing the Sahara is to you. Some people might not. So when somebody gets started, and this could be for anything, anybody, and we've all been there, we don't know what we don't know. So we get started and things start to reveal themselves and present themselves, and it gets pretty cool, right? Or we get started with something and we realize how terrible it is, and we don't want to do it anymore. And that's what I want to talk about here with the long game is the long game isn't about sacrifice. It's not about cutting out your enjoyment. It's not about giving up all of the things that you look forward to. It's not what it is. And if somebody tells you that that's what it is, get the hell out of there. Don't get me wrong. There's some things that are really bad, and we'll talk a little bit more about why we do those things. And what I'm talking about is like severe addictions that harm us, harm others. I'm not talking about going out and eating cake when you're on a diet or pushing yourself through an injury when you know you shouldn't. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about really severe things because there's always somebody who's going to say, oh, well, what about? And it's like, come on, dude. You know that wasn't necessary to bring up, but since people do, we'll address it up front. So that's on the side. There are some pretty bad things that we do that aren't necessarily there to serve us. But in terms of health and fitness, as we get going down these goals, what we want to do, and this goes for anything, whether you're with me, whether you're somewhere else, it doesn't matter. What we got to figure out is what can we incorporate into our life that we enjoy, makes us feel good, satiates our cravings, and we can keep for the rest of our life that moves us in a positive trajectory. So I'll give you an example. I went to this training, this is years ago, and they gave us a challenge, right? It was this whole plant-based vegan challenge. And, there's a bunch of type A people in there, and we're all cheering and roaring and ready to go. And they say, here's my challenge to you is do this for 10 days. If you're really hardcore, go for a month. So obviously, all of us that are there together, we're like, we're doing this for a month. This is going to be cake. They give us this generic plan. I'm telling you, I mean, this is vegan, right? Like we're checking our products that we have at the house, from shampoos and clothing to the foods that we're putting in, everything. It is a pretty hardcore program. So here's what happened though. I started the program, we started building a little bit momentum, and then we realized we didn't know what the hell we were doing, right? We were like, wow. And at the time, we were probably taking in about 225 grams of protein on average. I was the lower end at about that. There were some bigger guys there that were doing more. And how do I get that as a vegan? Like I had to start changing all of this stuff because I committed to this challenge of eating a certain way and sticking it out. Needless to say, I ended up figuring it out, lost a bunch of weight, but also lost a bunch of strength, had a ton of energy, felt great, but it didn't allow me to do the things that I really enjoyed without being hungry all the time whenever I did them. So that wasn't for me. Even though I felt good, wasn't for me. So I've made adjustments to that where now I can live in a way that I feel good about. Still a lot of plants, lots of veggies. At any given time, 80% of my plate or a meal is going to be vegetables. But I don't cut out the stuff that I want to enjoy. If I'm going to have pizza, I'm going to have a salad, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. If I want to eat a chicken, I'm going to eat a bunch of vegetables. If there's going to be something there, I need to offset that. And if you ever see pictures of my diet, if you're a part of any of our groups, you're going to see that 80% of the foods that I eat are very much like that. Why is that? One, I don't have to think about it. I can keep this as a part of my diet. I can stay within a healthy range. I can stay strong in the ways that I like to be strong. I can get the things that I want from it. And if I ever need to make a change, those changes then become small because this is an integrated part of my life that works well for me. So when it comes to you and your goals, whatever you want long-term, whether you're just getting started, you've been doing this for a long time, when we start looking at these things, a lot of the times we think about what we're going to give up. And that was the same thing when I was going through this vegan program. I looked everywhere. And here's the thing. So there's really no new problems, and there's already somebody who's probably figured out what you're trying to deal with. Now, some of you might be these super hardcore innovators and you're putting all this stuff together and you're changing the world, and that's awesome. But for the rest of us, if we need to find a diet or replace a food or do something or get inspired, somebody's already done it, okay? Conflict resolution, like it's done, right? So I love Mexican food. I'm here in Northern California, grew up here, and is spoiled with the diversity of food. But, you know, Mexican food, Mexican cuisine has always been a large part of my diet. Same thing for my whole family. So, quesadillas, right? Quesadillas. I was on this quest for finding somebody who got the results that I wanted in fitness so I can model them, has a product that I could invest in terms of food and diet recipes, foods that fit my goals, that had the macronutrients I wanted, had the flavor profiles I wanted. And I found it. And it was absolutely incredible. I got to have my quesadillas, mashed up all of my black beans, cooked them, found vegan cheeses that I enjoyed, high fiber, high protein tortillas that I enjoyed, tons of cilantro, which I enjoyed. All the peppers at any given time were probably growing, 19 to 25 different really spicy peppers. Put all that stuff in there. Still hit my macros, still enjoyed my quesadillas, still got to look forward to my meals, didn't feel like I was at a loss. And that's what's important when you're looking at this for the long haul. If, let's say we're taking sport, for instance. Let's say you're a competitive athlete, semi-professional, weekend warrior. Let's say you just like lifting, going real hard, or even just dancing. Let's say it's something different like dancing or hiking that we don't really consider sport. But let's say you really enjoy it, you want to do it for a long time. When we look at the long game, we want to start thinking about, are we mobile? Right? Do we have aches and pains? Can we move the way we want to move? Are there things that could negatively impact what we enjoy doing? And how do we address those now? How do we prepare ourselves so they don't become an issue? Take a step back, really dial in that stuff, and then be able to enjoy what we want to long term. Maybe it's just not being injured and looking good, right? So what does that take? Are you there now? I was listening to this interview the other day, and this guy had a fan or a follower message him and said, I'm depressed, I can't do this. Life's too hard for me, this and that. And I know this is extreme, okay? But it clicked, right? The guy responds back and he says, do you have a six-pack? Right? So it was like, okay, you know, that's pretty hardcore. The guy's like, no, I don't have a six-pack. And he said, get a six-pack. When you get a six-pack, right, go hit the gym, go lift, get a six-pack, come back and tell me if you're still depressed, right? So as the story goes, this guy, you know, gets and joins a gym apparently, goes really hard, finds his diet, gets a six-pack, messages this guy back. And the guy says, I can't believe the way I was thinking back then. I didn't have a purpose. I just didn't have a goal. I was focusing on so many things that were outside of my control that when I took something as simple as exercise and trying to just get a six-pack, it gave me purpose. Now, this isn't for everybody, but what happened is that guy's life changed, literally changed because he had purpose. So when we create our goals and we start moving towards a direction, imagine that giving you so much purpose that you have something to look forward to, but number two, you'll also protect it. So when we think about our body, when we think about our health, you really want to protect what you're working towards. Protect you. Identify the long game. Understand it's going to take time. You're in it for the rest of your life. It's just how it is. Understand that, but then protect it. Protect what you're working towards. Play the long game. Don't be distracted by the short game. Short game is cool. Short game is sexy. Short game will get there. But without the underlying habits of understand your goals and process, looking at those barrels and knowing what it takes to get there repeatedly, more than once. You want to know the secret to imposter syndrome? You can't repeat your results. That's it. Summed up, real quick. Life-changing words right there. You want to feel like an imposter? Look at the successes that you've had, the ones that you've never been able to replicate. That's why. Go out and replicate them. Replicate those results, you will never feel like an imposter. That's the importance of these videos. That's the importance of dialing in what the hell you're doing right now. Dial in your behaviors, your thoughts, your meanings, your beliefs around things. Look at the long game. Integrate the right things. Make that your short game. You'll have the long game covered for the rest of your life. Hope this video helps. See you in the next video.